Welcome to AP Human Geography. This is Project Explained, and we'd be covering this AP course in detail. We're starting with Unit 1, Part 1, which covers the first three sections of the first unit. Let's get started. As mentioned, we would be covering the first three sections in this unit: Geography, Human Geography, and Globes. There are a total of 10 sections in this unit, but it would be split within three videos. So this is the first video in the AP Human Geography series. We're starting with Unit 1, Section 1, Geography. This is basically going to be an introduction to geography, some of the basic concepts that apply to human geography and other branches. First of all, what is geography? Geography is defined to be the study of the world, humans, and landscapes. It is considered a science because it uses data and research. So it's like biology, because biology also uses research and data, creates hypotheses. Geography does that sometimes. It's also social science because it studies humans and relationships. It's like history because history studies the humans in the past. Geography, on the other hand, studies humans and relationships in the present day. We mentioned landscape in the definition. Landscape is basically all of the physical and human characteristics of a certain place, and it makes that place unique. So we might not consider this to be the definition of landscape in everyday life, and you'll find that as a common theme throughout this entire unit and this entire course in general. Sometimes we define things to be different in our everyday life than in AP Human Geography, and we have to get adapted to that. For example, landscape is usually going to be the physical characteristics that we see: a mountain in the background, some houses over here. But landscape in AP Human Geography is physical and human characteristics. The clothing that people wear, the food that they eat, that is also part of the landscape. That's part of the cultural landscape in AP Human Geography, but that would be part of its own unit, Unit 3 specifically. Moving on. Geography is divided into multiple levels, three of them: local, regional, and global. Local is a focus on a small town or community. Let's take London as an example. London isn't a small town or community, but we can talk about its local level if we talk about a specific neighborhood or a group of neighborhoods in London. We can talk about the clothing they wear, the food they eat. Like we said, that's part of the landscape. We can also talk about the regional level of London. London as a city. We can talk about its political landscape, basically how it serves as the capital of the United Kingdom and as a major political hub in that area. Finally, we can talk about the global level, which is a focus on the entire world. So we can say London is an economic center of the entire world, which is why it's part of the global level. So you can talk about the same topic in multiple different levels, and you'll be talking about something completely different. Branches of geography. There are two main branches of geography: human geography and physical geography. Human geography is the study of humans and communities, as the name suggests, while physical geography is the study of landforms and physical features. So in human geography, we would be studying population, politics, culture, industry, etc. While in physical geography, we'd be studying volcanoes, geology, atmosphere, and weather, climate, and more. However, each of these is also divided into their own subdivisions. Human geography has a lot, like we said: population, culture, politics, industry, and so on. But there are also some that aren't that well known. One of which is cartography. Cartography is the study of making maps, and we will be covering maps in the next video in this series. That would be Unit 1, Part 2. But it's usually not covered that much in human geography other than in the first unit. Physical geography also has subdivisions. Geology is an obvious one, but there are a few that aren't covered that much, and namely, they are hydrology, which is the study of water, and meteorology, which is the study of weather. This course focuses on human geography only, not physical geography. So we'll only be focusing on human geography. However, this first section serves as an introduction for geography in general, which is why we're also talking about physical geography a little. Okay, let's move on. There are five major themes of geography that appear throughout both human geography and sometimes even in physical geography. Location is where something is, and this is our everyday definition. We usually say the location of the book is on the table, but this would be at a larger scale slightly. Sometimes it can be the location of this city is here, or the location of this country is here. For example, we can say Washington, D.C. is located in eastern United States of America. On the other hand, place is the unique features of that site. So that's unlike our everyday definition. We usually use location and place interchangeably, but in human geography, we never do that. We can never use location and place interchangeably because location describes its physical location, while place describes its, maybe cultural is the right word. It's basically the features of that site. So you would say it's landscape. An example would be Washington, D.C. Well, we said its location was in eastern United States of America, but its place would be, for example, the landmarks it has or the political features it has. Next is region. A region is an area with common features, so it's multiple places together. We can say Arizona is a region because it has similar climate, similar terrestrial life throughout, and it has similar culture somewhat throughout. Movement. Movement is the fourth theme, and it's how and why humans move around. So this is also important in human geography because, well, it's movement is a major part, especially in population and migration. That's the why humans move around. Migration is the why. How is usually just modes of transportation such as airplanes or cars or more. And the fifth theme is human environment interaction. Again, important in human geography, but also a little bit in physical geography. It's how humans and its surroundings interact. So we can say that a farmer interacts with their surroundings because they plant wheat or some other crop, which changes the soil, which changes the food that animals eat, and so on. But other people also interact with the surroundings indirectly, sometimes directly as well. But if you drive a car, for example, you release carbon dioxide, which changes the atmosphere, and so on. Aside from the themes of geography, we also have 6 essential elements of geography. The first one is the world in spatial terms. It has 3 subpoints underneath it, which describe some of the key concepts in that essential element. We have places and regions, which are more of place and region. Both are themes that we discuss, so it's building on top of that. We have physical systems, that's more physical geography, so we have geology and physical processes. We have human systems, which is definitely human geography, and it's basically covering human geography as a whole. Environment and society, this is the fifth theme that we talked about, human environment interaction. And finally, the uses of geography, just general applications to the past, present, and future. Okay, that's it. We finished the first topic. Now we're going into the second section of the first unit, and then we'll finish off with a third section, and that would be it for this video. So, second section is human geography specifically. Human geography is basically the study of how humans are affected by and affect the Earth's surface. So, it's that human environment interaction thing we talked about. Its scope is enormous. It covers a lot of subtopics. We already mentioned a few of them. And it mostly focuses on human systems and environment and society. If you recall from our last section, essential elements 4 and 5 are those respectively. So human geography is usually focused on those two. Aside from the themes of geography that we covered, there are central themes of human geography specifically. The first one is globalization. It's the process by which people, organizations, and governments develop international influence or start operating on a global scale. Usually organizations, governments sometimes, people sometimes, but usually organizations. So think of McDonald's. McDonald's started in the United States of America. It's an organization, but it starts operating at a global scale. It's almost everywhere. You might not think it's in India, but it's in India, for example. It's basically on the other side of the world, and they're not the same development levels, but there's McDonald's almost everywhere. That's a globalization. Second one is sustainability. Sustainability is basically practices that meet the needs of the present generation without compromising the future generation's ability to meet their own needs. So if you change the way someone does something now, it also changes the way someone can do something in the future. So if you use up all the fossil fuels in this generation, the future generation can't use fossil fuels to provide energy, so they're going to have to find some other way, and that's going to be a huge mess. So if you use fossil fuels sparingly and try to find other methods of getting energy in this present generation, that'll greatly increase the future generations' ability to meet their own needs. So sustainability is a huge part of human geography as well. Gender. Gender is basically the ways in which society defines differences between males and females, not just the differences between males and females, but the way society defines the differences. So if you have a hierarchy of males or females in some area, for example, in a country's government, if there's some sort of hierarchy in the past, then that would be gender. And global citizens, basically humans who have geographic literacy. What is geographic literacy? That's basically an understanding of the geographic forces at work in the world. So humans who have geographic literacy are considered global citizens. So once you finish taking this AP Human Geography course, you are considered a global citizen. Good job. AP Human Geography has 7 main units. The first one, which is the one we're in right now, is the Introduction to Human Geography. It covers maps, globes, and just basic human geography concepts. Second one is Population and Migration. As expected, it covers population and migration. It talks about dynamics of populations, population growth, decline, and ways to measure population, as well as laws of migration and how it affects places. Third one is Culture. It talks about the diffusion of culture. It talks about language and religion. The fourth one is Politics. So basically, how the difference between nations and states, how they work, and so on. The fifth one is Agriculture and Rural Land Use. So basically, where certain agriculture is practiced and how it affects the environment. Sixth one is Cities and Urban Land Use. So the different models for cities and contemporary problems in cities. And the last one is Industry and Economic Development. So basically, the development of different countries with respect to each other and how industries work, where they're located, and so forth. Our last section for today is globes. We're going to start off by talking about absolute location. I mentioned it earlier when I was talking about location, but absolute location is basically the precise position of a certain place. It uses latitude and longitude. So basically, that's a geographic system that determines your absolute location. Latitude, also known as parallels, are imaginary horizontal lines that run from east to west, while longitudes, also known as meridians, are imaginarily vertical lines that run from north to south. So latitudes make up the horizontal lines, while longitude make up the vertical lines. A little bit more about latitude. So latitudes go from 0 to 90 degrees north and south of the equator. This central line is called the equator, and it goes 0 to 90 degrees above and below that, and we say N for north, S for south. Now, what is the equator? Equator is basically 0 degrees latitude, and that's the definition of it. The Tropic of Cancer, which is another important latitude line, is approximately 23.5 degrees north. Similarly, there's the Tropic of Capricorn, which is 23.5 degrees south. There's the Arctic Circle, which is 66.5 degrees north, and the Antarctic Circle, which is 66.5 degrees south. In this globe, we see all of these labeled, as well as the North Pole and the South Pole. We also have longitude. Longitude we defined earlier. It's 0 to 180 degrees east and west of the prime meridian. So the prime meridian is similar to the equator because it's the central point. It is considered 0 degrees longitude. It's also called the Greenwich Meridian because it goes through Greenwich, England. We also have the International Dateline, which is approximately 180 degrees longitude. This is the International Dateline here. Like we said, approximately 180 degrees longitude because, as you can see, there are variations because of different countries and so forth. Now we can finally talk about globes. A globe is a spherical scale model of the Earth. It's made up of different hemispheres. A hemisphere is a half of a globe. You've probably heard of the different hemispheres. They're the Northern Hemisphere, the Southern Hemisphere, the Eastern Hemisphere, and the Western Hemisphere. This globe shows the equator and the Greenwich or prime meridian, and it shows how they divide up the globe into different hemispheres. So the northern and southern are based on the equator, 0 to 90 degrees north and south of the equator, while the eastern and western hemispheres are 0 to 180 degrees east and west of the prime meridian. Finally, we're going to review continents, oceans, and time zones. Most of you should probably know continents, oceans, and time zones, but it's just a review. So a continent is a continuous large landmass. There are 7 continents. It's debatable. Some people say 5. Some people say 6. Some people say even more than 7, depending on what you think. But it's generally agreed upon that there are 7 continents. And similarly, there are oceans, continuous large bodies of water. There are 5 oceans. Again, it could be debatable depending on your view, but it's generally speaking, there are 7 continents and 5 oceans. Finally, we have time zones, a region that experiences different times. So, United States is made up of 4 different time zones, for example. We have Pacific, Mountain, Central, and Eastern. Some countries are fully within one time zone, some countries are divided up into multiple, but time zones basically have different times at the same time, for lack of a better phrasing. They have different. Time is a human construct. Basically, if it's 6:30 in one place, it's 8:30 in the other, but it's still at the same time. So that's basically the brief definition of a time zone. This map shows the different continents. So we have North America, South America, Africa, Europe, Asia, Australia, and Antarctica. Some people say Central America is a continent. Some people say Middle East is a continent. Some people say the Americas are one continent. So it's debatable. Some people also don't consider Australia a continent, but Oceania as a continent. So again, it's debatable. The oceans, the 5 oceans, are also displayed here: the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, Southern Ocean, Indian Ocean, and Arctic Ocean. These are the 5 major oceans. And finally, we have time zones. This is a pretty chaotic map of the different time zones we have. But as shown, we have different time zones in the US. Obviously, with Alaska and Hawaii, there are different time zones as well. But I was talking about the continental United States of America. There are 4 time zones. And you probably do not want to memorize all these time zones, but it's here for your reference in case you need it. And that concludes our first lesson in AP Human Geography. We covered sections 1, Geography, section 2, Human Geography, and section 3, Globes. Next video would be talking more about maps. That would be Unit 1, Part 2. See you next time.